Okay, first job, let's get the cam chain guides in. Put the rear one in first. Little diddly bit of tight on the old threads. You don't want these puppies coming out when the engine's singing at high speed. And then we'll just torque that up. There we go. Okie dokie. We've got our cam chain guide in. Now I was a bit unsure about the front cam chain guide, putting the engine together this way. So what I've done is I've temporarily bolted the bottom crankcase half in to try the cam chain blade in place. And what I've discovered is you can put that front cam chain blade in after the head and barrel are torqued down, which saves an awful lot of time, because your front blade, which is that there, goes in there and sits in a recess in the lower crankcase. However, that is fittable after the head and barrel are screwed into place, so we can leave that out for now, so it's one less thing to worry about. The front one is torqued up, Loctited in place, so that's nice and solid, won't go anywhere. So the next task is to give that surface a quick clean with some proprietary degreaser stroke cleaner. Isopropyl alcohol's my favourite. You can use anything you want as long as it's a degreaser cleaner that leaves no residue. Isopropyl alcohol tends to evaporate and leave no residue. You've only got to be careful using it when the doors and windows are closed, because it's a little bit potent. So that's wiped down. Next task is pop our dowels in place. There's two dowels in the crankcase, like that. Next task is our gasket. There's our base gasket. You can see there in the stamping is up. So that goes to the top. It goes that way around on there, like so. Really, really good fit that. Not bad at all. Right. Not bad at all, that. Right, okay. Next task is our cylinder barrel. Again, we'll just give it a quick wipe with the isopropyl alcohol. Make sure there is nothing on that surface, contamination wise, oil wise. Give it a wipe. Okay. Now then, that goes over the top of there. We've just got to watch our cam chain blade. And pop onto those like that, and it's on. That's the head and barrel mated. Sorry, the crankcase and the barrel mated. When I've been doing it long enough, I'll get it right, won't I? Just make sure everything's okay. Gaskets in the place. Yep, right. Next task. Again, isopropyl alcohol. Give it a wipe. Give it a clean. Make sure there's nothing on the surface that would cause a problem with any sealing. Just going to push them down a little bit, like that. Okay. Spotless. There we go. Again, two dowels. One in there, like so. One in there, like so. Next thing, cylinder head gasket. These are a multi-layer gasket. I'll show you what I mean, giving you a side view. The head gasket's made up of several layers. Again, it has stamped on it, up, yeah, and it goes that way around, because them holes are slightly bigger for the front dowels. That's in place. You can read the up sign, little heart there. That's ready to go. Next we have our cylinder head. Again, wipe the surface, make sure it's clean. It's got nothing on it, no oil, grease, anything like that. Make sure it's clean. I can't remember whether I showed you the head after we put the valves in, but I'll show you now. That's the head with the valves in. All nice and bright and shiny. Right, that's all been wiped with isopropyl alcohol again. Turn it the right way up. Helps if you put it on the right way around. There we are. Our cam blades are easy, free to move. And that's it. That's the top end. Okay, just to prove it to you, there's our cam blade. It has written on the underside of it there. I don't know if you can see that. See if we can focus. Up. So that goes to the top. Okay, and then when you have done that, just drops in there. Like that. That's in. Right. Next is our cylinder head bolts. Now we have 12 bolts. Yeah. 2 are slightly longer than the others. So what we need to do is make sure that the 10 bolts have the same length, go in the appropriate holes, and the 2 bolts go in the deeper holes, which I'll try and point out to you now. That hole there and that hole there need the longer bolts. All the other bolts are the same length, so the outside ones and these are all the same length. So they all have one length, and that one there and that one there is the longer bolts. Okay. Okay, so we've got all our bolts in place. Now all we need to do is put them down. Put a longer extension on that. Now each one of these bolts has to be tightened in order. So what we have to do is get them all to bottom out first, like that. Each one of the washers under the bolts, under the head of the bolts, and the actual underneath of the head of the bolts, we've put a drop of oil on, because that's what Mr. Kawasaki says to do. Simply because you're reducing friction at the head of the bolt. So when you tighten the bolt up, you get a true torque, rather than taking into account the friction underneath the head of the bolt, which makes torquing up more accurate. So that's what Mr. Kawasaki says to do in his handbook. That's what we've done. So now we'll just tighten up until the bottom out. So we start, that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. So what I'll do is I'll show you. Okay, I'll show you the markings. Okay, you can see there number 3. You can see there number 1. Number 4. Number 2. There's 5, and so on and so on. Each bolt has a casting, a number near it. In the casting, 9 and 10, which are the 2 outside ones. And you must adhere to that to prevent the cylinder head warping when you tighten it down. Make sure it's tightened evenly. And that's what we're going to do next. Tighten it down evenly. Let's just find out what the tightening torque is. .43, 40, 1, 2, 3. There we have it. 1 cylinder head fitted and torqued down. So, next task. We need to turn this over and we need to start on the other side. Right. Catch you in a bit.